It's November again, and boy, it's gonna be an interesting one. I write these way in advance, so I have no idea what's to come in the coming days, maybe weeks, but even I know it's gonna be rough. So I got to thinking, what topic can I cover that can help us alleviate our worries if not just for a bit? And it was honestly a no-brainer. The film industry of Japan is one of the most architecturally poignant in the world, from Kurosawa's mastering of direction to the Godzilla franchise's rich history of themes and practical effects, and everything beyond and between. This of course includes my expertise. Anime films nowadays seem to have a nice rhythm and grasp of what makes them strong, being the writing of thematic prose, animation to a fine degree, and the challenge of balancing modernism with traditionalism in filmmaking techniques. This could be seen with the studios involved, the staffs with hundreds of years worth of shared experience, and the ever-changing flow in how society, storytelling, and animation in general move forward. But I want to dig deeper than just looking over the past 20 years or so of anime films. I want to show and share how the course of this art began and evolved. So that's what we're gonna do. For this month, I'll be taking a look at 30 movies, from where it started to where we are. Approximately. That's nearly 80 years worth of film history to look at. And as you could imagine, summarizing 8 decades worth of an art's life within 30 video essays is a bit undercutting it, so I'm only gonna talk about standalone films, movies not connected to larger franchises like Dragon Ball or something, with one exception. I'm also only covering full-length feature films, those that premiered in theaters with a substantial runtime, as these are typically the ones to point out when it comes for actual casual moviegoers. And lastly, I'm only going to be talking about movies that came out before 2019. Not that movies like Suzume or The Boy and the Heron aren't worth talking about, but I think I need a little more time to stew on them. Maybe someday though. But aside from those prerequisites, it's fair game, besides the understanding that I'm only looking at these as films, not their source material. We have a heavy month to get through, whether if it's in the series or outside of it, but regardless, get settled as it's going to be a fascinating time no matter what. Who knows, maybe my possibly bad opinions would actually be the worst thing that happens. This is Ani-vember 2024, Anime Movies Edition. Beginning our month is Momotaro, Secret Soldiers, a propaganda film for World War II, of all things. Yeah, I just rattled off about escaping the realities of the divisive history currently being made, only to dive straight into the realities of a divisive history that was already made. And buckle up, this won't be the last time either. Premiering in 1945, Secret Soldiers was used as a means to rally Japanese nationalism in young minds, and it certainly shows, being very easy to follow with the easier to imagine context behind the filmmaker's intentions. But beyond that, how does the first anime movie actually stack up as, well, a movie, with and without the historical backing nowadays? The story centered on the new young graduates of a monkey, pheasant, dog, and bear, living their mostly serene lives despite a war going on. Then, when a young CEO named Momotaro comes around, it's all about preparing for battle against the deluded Oni troops, who are pretty obvious who they represent. Encapsulating both the great might of Nihon and the dynamic power of honor and friendship that carry them, it's all about the Peach Boy and his soldiers to claim their glory. When I first saw this movie a little over 10 years ago, I thought it was a cute, fun, harmless film, and in a way, I still kind of think that. But after a few rewatches over the years, I do find a few more layers to it that are pretty clever despite how seemingly primitive it appears. Firstly, as far as propaganda goes, it's a straightforward story. Proud country goes to war, mythic creatures are thrown into the mix for the children, and the country wins with the help of the warrior's pride, strength, and all the other traits befitting of the good guys. There's nothing really wrong with it story-wise, and the propaganda is mostly benign nowadays. I can't really imagine it strongly affecting anyone to do anything extreme. Then, when you actually dive into the storytelling, it is quite well done. Like, not only is the interaction of the fresh, innocent minds of the soldiers with the peacefulness of Japan good world building, but it's also clever parallelism to conveying how nice Japan is to kids despite the times. Like, the peace you're feeling now watching this movie is evident in the movie itself. That's pretty smart. And then there are the characters. As cheesy and cliched as they are, there's a cute and well-defined idea behind them of love for their people and pride for their country, even if it is seen as misguided nowadays. For example, the rescue scene of the kid in the river is a prime example of how sharp one of our characters acts in danger. It's decent internal character building and plot setup. Plus, it's kinda funny to see walking copyright infringements in the movie this old. But there is a problem with the film, and it might honestly just be me, but isn't how dated and how it looks. Don't get me wrong, obviously the animation qualities of then aren't gonna be on par of today's standards. What I'm talking about is the comparison of the Japanese artistry versus those of other productions at the time, most notably Disney. While there is good excuse as to why the Japanese technique was primitive at the time, it doesn't overlook the clunkiness of the design of the film. It's also distracting how inordinarily creepy Momo looks, or many of the other characters for that matter. It's the teeth. I don't know, is that just me? Aside from that, in being the first full-length anime movie, it's not that bad. While I think its legacy as this revolutionary milestone of being the first is more prevalent than the film itself, it's honestly not terribly structured. It has a nice understanding of its writing, what it tries to get across, and still manages to work fairly well as its own thing. But does that actually make it worth it? Well, let's put it this way. Had it been the second, it probably wouldn't be as recognized as it is today. It could still be famous given the subject matter and the context of the times it was made, but that specific title really lends its prestige to what is otherwise an okay film. I wouldn't say it's incredible or a must-watch if it was down to only that. But since it is the first, I do recommend it, as it does have a ton of Japanese history in it, animated or otherwise. It honestly could have been worse, but it's perfectly fine, with a little grain of nuance. Check it out and see for yourself if this flick rises above your expectations or just... Actually, I'm not gonna finish that joke.